The 7-0 Bucks take on the 5-2 Celtics this evening in Boston, joined by Matt VELAZQUEZ of the Journal Sentinel. Matt, the Bucks are 7-0. Are they the best team in the Eastern Conference in your opinion?
I think there's some room to grow to prove that. I think right now the standings say they are, but you have to be able to beat every team at their best in order to be the best, and you need to do it in April and May and June, then you really are.
What surprised you most about this start?
I think the most surprising thing really is just how quickly the team has taken to Mike Budenholzer's system. There's really been no hiccups. They had some summer open gyms and they got together before training camp. Then they had training camp just to put it all together, and they're playing, very different. They're shooting a lot more threes, working together better on defense, not over helping or trapping as much, kind of just communicating, playing within the flow of the game. And their defense has been one of the best in the NBA, which that's a huge surprise considering where they were last year.
What have they changed defensively?
Like I said, I think they're just trapping less. They're not as aggressive. They're trying to defend the next pass instead of really attacking the ball handler. They're really funneling guys into the mid-range. They're not trying to, take away everything. They're trying to say, all right, we want to take away threes. We want to take away the paint. Everything else we can live with because the numbers back it up.
Has that been the biggest change since Jason Kidd left?
I think so. I mean, when you thought of the Bucks with Jason Kidd, you thought of length and you thought of just an aggressive trapping defense that was going to hound you everywhere. And the problem with that is that teams figured it out. They knew what was coming. They knew how to get around it. And then the Bucks would constantly be scrambling and really have no way of stopping teams when you're kind of in scramble mode. And so just having things be a little bit more conservative and focused on the next pass instead of on the ball handler himself, they've been able to adjust pretty quickly.
GIANNIS ANTETOKOUNMPO is warming up behind us. What surprises you most about this guy? Because he's special.
I mean, nothing anymore. I mean, you could tell me he did anything on the court, and I'd believe it. I mean, he can get to the rim whenever he wants, basically. He's starting to shoot threes. He's not shooting a high percentage yet, but he hopes to get there. I mean, he's just a monster on defense. And really, just I don't know if there's anything that could surprise me. He works really hard. Everybody knows that. And with that hard work has come a lot of progress over the past 5-6 years, and we'll see where he can go next.
How would you define his position so far after 7 games?
Well, I know he would define it as he's a basketball player. He said it a million times. But just the funny thing is that he's not where he wants to be yet. I mean, and here he is putting up huge numbers, a career high, pretty much double his career average in rebounds, 27, 28 points a game basically. And he still says he's playing like B-level basketball. He's not really where he wants to be. He knows that he needs to get to a certain level before the playoffs. That's when it matters. But during the regular season, he's going to take the time he needs to ramp up to that point. And it'll be interesting to see where he gets to later on, because right now he's playing really well.
Now, as we know, the Celtics defeated the Bucks 4-3 in the first round last year. What do you remember the players saying after Game 7 in this building back in May?
A lot of them were saying that they thought they were still the better team, that they had more talent, and that they really should have won that series. And they said that the year before when they played the Raptors and lost in 6 games. They said it last year, when they went against the Celtics and lost in 7 games. But they believed it. And this summer, the team got better. They brought in Mike Budenholzer as the coach. They brought in Ersan Ilyasova, Brook Lopez, Pat Connaughton, Dante DiVincenzo, all these guys who are three-point shooters who can fit around and alongside Giannis. And so far the results have been really good, and they believe that with those little minor changes that they made, maybe considered minor, but they think that they're major changes in what will happen this season. But with those changes, they have the talent and the ability to go far in the East.
One of those names you mentioned, Ersan Ilyasova, came over from Philadelphia to Milwaukee. How do you sum up Philadelphia's season so far? The Bucks have defeated them already, and they don't look as strong.
Yeah, I think the 76ers are they're missing guys like Ersan Ilyasova. They're missing Marco Bellinelli. They don't really have that same level of depth of shooting that they had last year. Like last year when they made their big run towards the end of the season, granted it was with Joel Embiid out, but it was when those guys showed up. When Ersan Ilyasova was signed and when Marco Bellinelli was brought in, that's when they started to have the space around Ben Simmons and the space, just for all their guards to make plays and to get shots. And those guys figured prominently. So right now, I think the 76ers are still trying to figure out who they are. They're still trying to, mesh together as a unit, and that's going to take some time. But right now, they definitely seem like a team that's in flux a little bit.
Have Eric Bledsoe and Terry Rozier settled whatever dispute they did have last season?
Yeah, word is they squashed their beef. They've moved on. I don't think the fans here will forget. I'm sure he'll be booed lustily whenever he touches the ball. And that's sports. I mean, that's what's going to happen, and it should make it for a fun game tonight.
And last one, does it feel in any way like a rivalry to you, Boston-Milwaukee?
No, not yet. There needs to be more history to it. I mean, there is some history if you go back deep enough to the 80s. You have different teams. But just recent history, you had that one playoff series, and there hasn't really been any catalyzing event other than that. So, you know, if they meet again in the playoffs this coming year and have a lot of knockdown, drag-out games like they've had, then maybe they'll have one. But right now, it's not there yet.
Matt VELAZQUEZ, thank you for your time.
All right, thanks for having me.
Right, I caught up with Al Horford, the Celtics center, early this morning. We started with his reaction to Derrick Rose dropping 50 points against the Utah Jazz.
Man, just happy to see. Derrick's a guy that such a great player and just has had a lot of injuries, and to see him have that type of game, that type of night was just special.
You had a similar situation 2011-12 season. You only played 11 games. What goes through your mind at 25 with an injury like that?
Well, it definitely makes you, reconsider the way that you play the game, and, you question if you can ever kind of be the same player that you were. And, I think it challenges you in a way to think different about the game of basketball.
Bucks this evening. Ironically, your father, Tito, played for Milwaukee at a certain point. What's your first memory of basketball with your father?
Well, yeah, I was really young when my dad played in Milwaukee. I look at pictures and things like that, but probably my first memory with my dad was when he played in France, actually, out of all places. Played in the French league over there, and just getting to go to the arena with him on game day, and or go to practice and stuff like that. Those were my first early memories.
It was a 7-game series in the first round last year. Did you wake up with a different energy this morning playing the Bucks tonight?
It's a new season. We obviously beat them last year, but we understand that they've gotten better, and it's going to be a big challenge for us tonight to beat them here at home.
Last one, GIANNIS ANTETOKOUNMPO, a lot of skills. What's the specific one that really makes him a challenge to defend for you?
Well, I just think his ability, to use his length. He does a good job with that, and finishing around the defense. So, and now he's shooting the ball more from the outside, so you have to be aware of that as well. So, he just presents a lot of problems.
Tom Haberstroh from NBC Sports joins us. Tom, I think the most important thing we have to get out of the way, you used to live in London. Tell me more.
Oh, yeah, I used to study at the Syracuse University, studied economics in London back in 2006? 2006, in the fall of 2006. Awesome time, love London, and it's crazy to hear you talk to me about the Pepper Challenge and all this with your accent and everything. It was like, whoa. And then, yeah, I was in Bloomsbury, and it was the nicest place I've ever been to.
You're welcome back if you're happy to cover one NBA game every year.
Yes, that would be very enjoyable as long as I get. I'll take you to an NBA game and then you take me to a Premier League game or something like that. How does that sound?
If you call it football, I'll happily do that.
Yes. All right, fine. Deal.
Let's cover some league topics. Who are you more worried about, Houston or Oklahoma City?
Oh, Oklahoma City for sure. The fact that their offense can't get going, the defense. I know Steven Adams as a center will get going, but I just worry about the fact that Russell Westbrook and Paul George at this point. They haven't been healthy over the offseason. They both had issues with their knees. That's a big concern for me. I know the Houston Rockets had a great year last year. They have Carmelo Anthony on the team, which obviously hasn't worked on the defensive side of the floor. But for me, OKC is the bigger question mark because I know the levels that Houston can get to, but OKC still, without Kevin Durant, hasn't reached the peak that the Houston Rockets have.
Now, it's not my life, and I know it's a lot of money, but I still maintain what Paul George decided to do by going back there was a little strange. What do you think?
Yeah, totally. Especially after the fact, he said if he had stayed in Indiana, he would have been a Laker, which is like, wait, so you got traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder. You wanted to be in Hollywood, in the Los Angeles Lakers, but now you want to stay in Oklahoma City. Now, for those who are across the pond, Oklahoma City is it's the boonies. It's way out in the country, so it's a totally different thing. It's like oil and vinegar compared to Los Angeles. So Paul George going back to OKC, you have to give it credit to Sam Presti, the general manager there, and the coach Billy Donovan, and Russell Westbrook, the superstar, for recruiting him and keeping him in OKC. But for me, one of the biggest question marks of the offseason.
Currently constructed, are the Lakers a playoff team?
No. They need to make changes there because LeBron James is so good, but he's not good enough that there is no other all-star on the roster right now. There isn't another guy that he can go into the battle with and win 50% of the games this year. The defense is horrible. JaVale McGee, he's a center, a journeyman in the NBA, and he might be their best defender on that team. So that's a real big problem. If you're LeBron James and you're trying to win games this year, they've got no defense and no shooting. And in today's NBA, if you don't have one of those two things, it's going to be a tough season.
Do you have a prediction on how many hours it might be until LeBron lets off, either on Twitter or some other medium?
It's going to be soon, before Thanksgiving. I'm sure it's going to be an eruption before then. I think the glimmer, the shine, the glamour of Los Angeles has rubbed off. The shine is rubbed off. So now people are looking at this team with really objective lenses and saying, wait a minute, this team isn't very good. Before it was like, oh, how cool it is that LeBron James is playing for the Lakers. But now I feel like at this point people are being a lot more pragmatic about how bad this team is. And right now, LeBron James, he might take a DNP rest, like take the next 30 days off if he's that frustrated and just say, I'm going to get my body right and get ready for next season, because there's going to be a ton of free agents this summer of 2019 that he's going to try to make sure that he's still a superstar. Once he realizes that he's not going to be winning a championship with this team, and it's going to be pretty soon, I think he's going to check out and make sure that his body is ready for the long haul.
Not such a classy move from Cleveland, firing Tyronn Lue, and now J.R. Smith wants out, Kevin Love's injured. Was that the right decision to fire Lue or not?
If you're not sure about Ty Lue, don't wait 6 games into the season. I don't know what they expected from this team, but it shows that they weren't on the same page. That Cleveland's front office and Ty Lue were not on the same page. My thing is, Ty Lue without LeBron James is 1-18. They've lost 18 games of their 19 games without LeBron James since Tyronn Lue took over for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So you knew what kind of what the cards were stacked against them. So obviously they weren't going to be very good this year. So it's kind of hard for me to believe that their expectations were much higher than what they've shown this season. So Ty Lue, he's going to collect a nice check for the next few years from Dan Gilbert, the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm sure he's very happy about that.
Last one, we're in Boston tonight for the Celtics and the Bucks. If I gave you Boston, Milwaukee, Toronto, Philadelphia, and you've got a nice suit on, so let's put your suit on the line. If you had to choose one of those teams to be number one at the end of the season, who would it be?
Number one in the regular season or the postseason?
To make the finals.
To make the finals, Boston. I think they're tailor-made for the Golden State Warriors. They're going to play the Golden State Warriors in the finals, I think, but they're not going to beat them. No one's going to beat the Golden State Warriors this season as long as those guys are healthy. But ultimately, I think the depth of this roster is going to help them, and I think they have a high ceiling. Toronto Raptors are the next team for me. They're going to win the regular season, the number one seed in the regular season, but I just don't know about Kawhi Leonard's health for the long haul. He didn't play much last year, and I think just conditioning-wise, I'm wondering if he's going to have enough legs to get through the postseason with the Toronto Raptors. And it's a first-year head coach, Nick Nurse, replacing Dwayne Casey last year. Brad Stevens, I think, is just a lot more experienced, and I think this team, the continuity here, is going to pay off in the postseason.
I say it every time, BBL legend Nick Nurse. He spent 10 years coaching in England.
Is that right? That's news to me. You're teaching me stuff now.
Well, you mentioned the Als Pepper Challenge, so just quickly, the platform's yours. I would like you to spread the word on that.
Yeah, so it's the hashtag ALS Pepper Challenge. It's eat a hot pepper, a jalapeno, a habanero, or anything at your favorite Indian restaurant. We're raising money for ALS, which is Lou Gehrig's disease. My mother was diagnosed a year ago, and we're trying to raise $1 million. We've raised over $600,000 so far. All you have to do is eat a pepper, videotape yourself doing it, and nominate 3 of your friends or your enemies to eat a hot pepper too, and post that video, hashtag ALS Pepper Challenge. People, Kelly Clarkson, Kelly Osbourne has also done, Sharon Osbourne has done it, and Charles Barkley's done it. It's really, really been a special thing. We're very proud of all the work we've been doing, but ALS Pepper Challenge for Lou Gehrig's disease, we're trying to find a cure. There is no cure. It is not incurable. It is just underfunded, the research for ALS. So go have fun with it.
I'm on it next week, Tom. You'll see my tweet. Thank you for
No
your time.
way. Thank you very much, and appreciate it. This is great.